This just proves they're on the verge of something special. As heading into the prospect showcase in Seattle this week, and the Vancouver Canucks have one prospect that is standing out far ahead of many others. With multiple players trying to crack the Canucks lineup, this prospect showcase is going to show exactly what the Vancouver Canucks future is, with these two players battling to make the open night roster. We're going to break down these two players, the one player standing out in particular, and even a very late draft pick that is looking like a hidden gem as he was dominating the OHL preseason. We're going to break down all this and so much more later on this episode. Before we get into that, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone watching, and we're trying to reach our goal of 8,500 subscribers before the preseason starts. So make sure to go down and hit that free subscribe button, and in return, we'll give you daily updates from all around the Canucks, like their prospect showcase coming up this weekend, trades, rumors, reports, game recaps, anything you can think of on the Vancouver Canucks, we'll be covering right here. It means the world, and we'll give you daily updates. But with that, let's just hop straight into it, where the Vancouver Canucks are heading into the prospect showcase. There's a lot of guys that are standing out in particular, but before we get into that, just looking at the overall lineup. 2025 Prospect Showcase roster, just pulling it up. This is headlined by some elite prospects within this system. Jonathan Lekkerimaki at the forward position. Elias Pettersson, D. Petey, and all the way to Tom Willander. But there are a couple of guys that are standing out in a way that people were not expecting. Now, the first person I wanted to get into was Gabe Chiarot. Now, Gabe Chiarot, a very late pick for the Vancouver Canucks, starting to look like a hidden gem, and we did cover him a bit before, but we can see the preseason point leaders in the OHL, and we see Gabe Chiarot on a four-way tie for number one. 7 points for Gabe Chiarot, and Dave Hall says it perfectly. Insert, it's only preseason here, but this is a player that we've covered before, and that is going to get a huge role increase on Brampton Steelheads going into the season. Now drafted by the Vancouver Canucks in the 6th round, 175th overall, Gabe Chiarot has got better and better season after season. With the Steelheads in the OHL in his first season, 10 points in 48 games, taking a huge jump to 35 points in 66 games. And with this season coming up, with Gabe Chiarot being one of their highest talented offensive guys, as they lost a lot of people to going to the NCAA, being drafted, or anywhere in between, his increased role is going to help with his development so much more, and we're already starting to see it as he was in a four-way tie going into the season. Now, Gabe Chiarot does come into this camp, and let's be real here, he's not going to crack this Canucks lineup coming out of the preseason, but the big thing with Gabe Chiarot, and something that Patrick Allvin doesn't get enough credit for, is grabbing these late gems coming into the draft and just seeing his success so far to start this season. It's just showing the road ahead for a lot of these prospects. I mean, a lot of these guys were not top picks. Pettersson, D. Petey was drafted in the 3rd round. You can work your way down. There's a lot of people on this list that weren't taken high, and the Canucks are slowly building a respectable prospect pool. And it kind of goes into even the elite talent they have. Now, Jonathan Lekkerimaki is headlining this forward list, someone that is trying to fight for a position within this Canucks lineup. We know how dominant he was in the Swedish league. We've seen how dominant he was in the AHL, having a bit of a rough go once getting into the playoffs, but coming in, scoring 2 goals against Charlotte to secure a win in the Calder Cup Finals with the Abbotsford Canucks. The big thing with Lekkerimaki is getting a full season. We know in the Swedish league, they're a lot shorter seasons, so full 82 games in the AHL or NHL is going to be a big thing for the young player. Now, we do also have to say, I want to prove I belong in the NHL. I've only really been back skating for a few weeks and eating. I just eat all the time. Now, this is the big thing with Lekkerimaki. He does need to put on some weight. He's a smaller frame, but a lethal shot. Now, with Jonathan Lekkerimaki coming in, it's going to be hard to crack into this Canucks lineup. We know right now the center position. If Jonathan Lekkerimaki was a center, he would be on this team all day. But the wingers on this Canucks team are very good, and it's going to be hard to get him into the lineup without having to bury him onto the 4th line, onto the 3rd line, where you want him to utilize his offensive potential, his scoring ability, and everything in between. So with Jonathan Lekkerimaki being a bit of a dark horse with Coots and many others, it's going to be interesting how he shows out against the prospects in Seattle and with this Canucks team going into the preseason, and there is a very strong chance that we do see him crack it. Now, there is another big name that must be covered, and that is Tom Willander. We've seen from the intro clip, blowing past people, scoring On Thatcher Demko with lethal backhand, Tom Willander is looking poised to make this Canucks team. Now, the defense is stacked. This is one of the best defensive cores we've seen in quite some time for the Canucks. And the big thing is, yes, this is not having someone like Zadorov, Ian Cole on the third pairing, but this is a very deep and strong Canucks defensive group. Adding Marcus Pettersson last year at the trade deadline, adding Filip Hronek a few seasons ago, going all the way to bringing in DPD, re-signing Derek Forbort, and with Tom Willander set to crack into this lineup as a 7th or 6th defenseman. Things are getting really interesting, and the Canucks are truly building something special with this young group. Yes, they have a lot of holes in this lineup that they're going to have to address at some point. We know this team has to be competitive to keep Quinn Hughes on the roster, but going back into what they have on the prospect pool, yes, they do not have top prospects in the world like we've seen with Matthew Schaefer, Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, but they do have a lot of things that other teams don't have, and that is players waiting in the weeds to crack straight into a lineup. Looking through this list, there's a lot of players that are ready to break through. I mean, you have someone like Riley Patterson that's going off in the OHL or set to go off with the trade that did occur. Not saying he can crack into the lineup at the very moment, but he's going to continue developing. There's a lot of guys here that aren't drafted yet, which I will touch on in a different video. But overall, on the defensive end, there is a handful of players that are going to play with the Canucks this year or going to make a push. This doesn't include players like Victor Mancini, who's set to at least get a stint with the Canucks. Canucks fans, this is a big season for the Canucks. We know the defensive end, they are bolstered on. They have every position they need on defense from left to right, all the way to the extras that can come in. But the biggest thing is this forward group to take the next step. And I mean, looking through the prospects, Jonathan Lekkerimaki is probably ahead of most people on it. Ulrichsen's an interesting name, the 6'6" Swede as well. But the big thing is they're slowly building something. They're adding weight. They're hungry to crack within this lineup. And just looking at this, would you inject Jonathan Lekkerimaki into this lineup? Do you think he would fit into the top 6 at the moment? Would you feel comfortable maybe moving Niels Höglander to the 4th line to get him a middle 6 position? Would you rather just let him have a year in Abbotsford to kind of develop his game, get better, get stronger? What is your thoughts on Jonathan Lekkerimaki and going into Tom Willander? Where do you think he fits on the defensive pairings? Would you like to inject him straight in there to kind of rotate through with DPD and Derek Forbort, where you get all 3 NHL action? You can call them up and not be a huge burden on the cap hit, but you also get these guys to stay healthier. You can move people out of the lineup, not have to push people through injuries. This is a big season for them to compete. What is your guys' thoughts on this? Go down and leave a comment down below. And speaking of comments, we'll go straight into comments of the day. Coming from Ron, and he says, Crosby is nothing like Messier as a human, but it's kind of the same thing. Crosby is better, but a dangerous thing to trade for because you will empty the barn for a stud. This was going into just talking on the options the Canucks have. Now listen, Sidney Crosby coming to the Canucks is probably something that won't happen, but with Pittsburgh being the only team selling, the reports coming out that Crosby might not be happy on a rebuilding team. This would change the entire franchise. And listen, there's more realistic options. Maybe someone like Pavel Zacha, which we're going to touch on in a video in the coming days as well. But the big thing with this Canucks team, going out to trade for a center is something they're going to do. It's just a matter of figuring out what center that is. And it's going to be quite exciting to see them in the lineup. But if you want to go down and leave a comment on anything I spoke on in this video, you can be featured on Comments Today like Ron did today. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back for another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But once again, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone watching this. This was a dream, and you guys are making it a reality. Being able to talk about our team to you guys, giving you updates from all around it. So if you want to go down, leave your favorite moment in Canucks history. Was it slaying the dragon? Was it drafting a key player? Let us know down in the comments. But that'd be it for this episode. Take care, Canucks fans.